It will be the Henderson Labor government's biggest spending achievement. A 1,000-bed jail for the top end at a cost of just under $500 million. That'll be a 60% increase on the cost projected by the government only a couple of years ago. The government says the new jail to be built at Holts is needed because the existing jail at Berrima is grossly overcrowded and facilities there are not suitable for rehabilitation programs. Jerry Wood is the independent member who holds the balance of power in the Territory Parliament, and I spoke to him a short time ago. Jerry Wood, welcome to the program.
Good evening.
You said yesterday you were surprised the cost of the new jail had blown to $500 million. Given you're the person who's meant to be keeping this government honest, how can you say you were surprised? Were you not kept abreast of this project?
Well, I haven't been involved in the costing of the actual facility, except that I knew what the original price was because it was in, I think, budgets 3 or 4 years ago. But I haven't been involved in the actual design and what would go into that design, except that for philosophically I believed we should put in infrastructure that will make sure that people coming out of that prison will be better off than when they went in.
What influence have you been able to bring to this project? I mean, as you say, we are still getting one very large prison.
That's right, and I would have preferred a smaller prison. I would prefer, and I'm still pushing for more things like a prison farm in Central Australia. But sometimes you take things one at a time. The government has agreed to 2 work camps and a prison farm. At the same time, I'm shown figures by the experts that show that by the time this is built, our prison population will be that high. We still need to house prisoners, unfortunately. I think that, again, you can focus on that issue, but from my point of view, it's also need, and this is where I think the government has failed to some extent, we're not doing enough work in early intervention.
2 years ago, you said you were concerned whether $300 million, the projected cost of the jail back then, could be used in a better way. The price is now $495 million. That's a 60% increase. So you should be even more concerned today. I mean, are you?
Well, I only got told yesterday that was the amount. I do not know why that amount has blown out, except obviously there would be inflation because there's a figure 3 or 4 years ago. Obviously things have increased.
Jerry, would you hold the balance of power? You are keeping this government in power. How would you not be aware of such a massive cost blowout?
Well, because obviously it went out for contract and I'm not involved in those sort of matters. I mean, government does lots of projects. I mean, it does a bridge here or it does another building there. I'm not involved in that level of detail. I am told they will build a new prison. Now, it's obviously up to the government to decide whether it can afford to do that. It obviously talks to Treasury. It obviously has discussions with private industry because it's a public-private partnership. I'm not involved in those discussions. The government has to be allowed to work its own budget, and if it believes that it can pay the cost of that facility, and if that facility is going to last for many, many years, that's the decision they make.
Even at the exorbitant rates of construction in the bush, by rough calculation, that $495 million could build about 1,000 new houses in remote communities. How's that for a better way of spending money?
Well, how many people, both sides of the political spectrum keep saying, let's get tough on crime. Well, and both sides have pushed that for a long time. The Territory Government has changed legislation which requires people to go to prison. Unfortunately, the results of that is we need more room. So on one hand, you can't say let's be tough on crime. On the other hand, you don't have the facilities to keep people. We have a very overcrowded prison at the moment. You can always play one expenditure off against another expenditure, whether you should build the Tiger Brennan Freeway. That quarry could have built 1,000 houses too. Governments make decisions, and those decisions, I suppose, they make a judgment, and they have in this case. Of course, I'd love to see 1,000 houses built in some of those communities. It might reduce the problems with overcrowding in those communities as well.
And perhaps the rates of imprisonment.
That's right, but I've also said that we should be spending money on prison camps, on work camps, prison farms, that we need to get people out working so that they aren't confined behind the big walls.
But do you agree with the critics of this new jail that it represents a huge admission of failure? Because clearly, as you say, the government is just continuing to lock up more and more people in the Northern Territory.
Well, it wouldn't make any difference if you shoved them all in the old jail. It'll still be admission of failure. I don't disagree that most prisons, to some extent, are an admission of failure, that somewhere along the line, our systems have failed.
Jerry Wood, now to local government reform. In your opinion, what's gone wrong with the implementation of the new super shire system?
Well, I can't say things have gone wrong everywhere because that'd be unfair on those councils doing fairly well. From day one, when the changes to shires were introduced, I've always said they're far too big. They become bureaucracies. And in my travels around the territory, and I've done quite a few travels to small communities, you get a feeling that people have lost that sense of identity, lost a sense of control, and because it's now being run by an administration, in many cases, not even within their shire. Like the Victoria Daly Shire is run from Katherine. Katherine is not in that shire, and you have to wonder why it isn't in the first place. But I've been to places like Daly River. Used to have a great little local government. It doesn't feel like it's got a sense of identity anymore. On top of that, places like Daly, who have a great record of building houses, are not getting any houses because they're not a growth town. And on top of that, the federal government says it's going to scrap CDEP. What hope have those people got? No wonder they're starting to feel like nobody loves them, and people are starting to feel, why is this happening? So it's part of a package that I think is not good for the territory.
So you'll be backing the Country Liberals reform in this area?
I probably could say they're backing what I said in the first place. But look, but I think we should be careful to say you have to go out and consult people. There may be councils that people are quite happy with. Don't have change for the sake of change. If people are happy with what they got, well, maybe leave it alone. But make sure you talk and consult with people first before you act to change what's there already.
Jerry Wood, thanks for talking with us.
Thank you.